Our volume up? Nope. Turn our volume up.
Test. Test, test.
There you go.
Test.
We're a few minutes late. We don't like starting late, but yeah, if you would roll call, please.
Here.
Councilmember Schroeder?
Here.
Councilmember Jablonski?
Here.
Councilmember Brightcrus?
Here.
Vice Mayor Fiskelli?
Here.
Mayor McKay?
Here. If everyone would please stand for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Awesome. All right, thank you. We've got a walk-on proclamation for gun violence awareness. Russell, if you would read that in, please.
Certainly, Mayor. All right, I have a proclamation here declaring June 1st, 2018 as National Gun Violence Awareness Day. This proclamation declares the first day of June of 2018 to be National Gun Violence Awareness Day in the town of Southwest Ranches to honor and remember all victims and survivors of gun violence, and to declare that we as a country must do more to prevent gun violence. Whereas every day, 96 Americans are killed by gun violence, and on average, there are nearly 13,000 gun homicides every year. And whereas Americans are 25 times more likely to be killed with guns than people in other developed countries, and whereas support for the Second Amendment rights of law-abiding citizens goes hand in hand with keeping guns away from dangerous people. And whereas Hadaya Pendleton, a 15-year-old teenager who marched in President Obama's second inaugural parade and was tragically shot and killed just weeks later in Chicago, should be now celebrating her 21st birthday. And whereas to help honor Hadaya and the 96 Americans whose lives are cut short and the countless survivors who are injured by shootings every day, a national coalition of organizations has designated June 1st, 2018, the first day in June, as the 4th National Gun Violence Awareness Day. And whereas the idea was inspired by a group of Hadaya's friends who asked their classmates to commemorate her life by wearing orange, choosing this color because hunters wear orange to announce themselves to other hunters when in the woods, and orange is a color that symbolizes the value of human life. And whereas anyone can join this campaign by pledging to wear orange on the first day in June of 2018 to help raise awareness about gun violence. And whereas by wearing orange on June 1st, 2018, Americans will honor the lives of gun violence victims and survivors. And whereas we renew our commitment to reduce gun violence and pledge to do all we can to keep firearms out of the wrong hands and encourage responsible gun ownership to help keep our children and our community safe. Now, therefore, be resolved that the town of Southwest Ranches hereby proclaims June 1st, 2018 to be National Gun Violence Awareness Day and encourages all citizens to support their local community's efforts to prevent the tragic effects of gun violence and to honor and value human lives. In witness whereof, I have hereunto set my hand and caused the seal of the town of Southwest Ranches be affixed this 24th day of May, 2018. Doug McKay, Mayor of the town of Southwest Ranches.
Awesome. Greatly appreciate it. If I could ask Sheena Frederick, are you here? Yep. If you would come up to accept this, we'd greatly appreciate it. And then if you have something you'd like to say, feel.
Well, you did a great job.
Thank you.
So here you go. So you have the pleasure. Absolutely. So if you'd like to take a minute and say something, feel free.
Okay, so. I don't think I've ever spoken into a microphone.
That's okay.
Good evening, Mayor McKay and council members. My name is Sheena Frederick. I am a resident of Southwest Ranches. On behalf of Moms Demand Action for Gun Sense in America, we would like to thank you for sponsoring this proclamation declaring the first day of Friday of June National Gun Violence Awareness Day in the town of Southwest Ranches. We all agree that gun violence has become an epidemic, and National Gun Violence Awareness Day is not about politics. The Wear Orange campaign, part of National Gun Violence Awareness Day, commemorates and honors a 15-year-old teen, Hadaya Pendleton, who was tragically shot and killed in the streets of Chicago. But it also commemorates and honors the 17 children and adults killed at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School, right here in our community. As does it King Carter and Tequila Forshee in Miami-Dade, and all the survivors of gun violence and their families and friends. Wear Orange, as you can see, we're all wearing orange, is a celebration of life and a call to action to help save lives. Orange symbolizes the value of human life and reminds us that we are united by our shared hope that we can, by working together, create a safer country for all Americans. On Saturday, June 2nd, Moms Demand Actions invites all of you and all the citizens of Southwest Ranches to join with us at our local Wear Orange event, Healing Through Harmony, at Pine Trails Park in Parkland from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. This Wear Orange event is a family-oriented and includes a youth concert, child activities area, performance, food trucks, and speakers. In closing, thank you again for your support. We hope to see all of you at Saturday, June 2nd from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. at Pine Trails Park in Parkland. Of course, wearing orange.
Thank you very much. Okay, Russell, proclamation, code enforcement.
Okay, Mayor, we have another proclamation here for Code Enforcement Officers Appreciation Week, which is the week of June 4th through the 8th, 2018. Whereas code enforcement officers provide for the safety, health, and welfare of the citizens in this community through the enforcement of building, zoning, housing, animal control, fire safety, environmental, and other codes and ordinances. And whereas code enforcement officers are not credited for the jobs that they do in saving lives and improving neighborhoods. And whereas every day, assisted by support and program staff, they attempt to provide quality customer service to the public for the betterment of the community. And whereas too many times their efforts go unnoticed, even after code compliance has been accomplished due to their efforts and expertise. And whereas code enforcement officers are dedicated, well-trained, and highly responsible individuals who take their jobs seriously and are proud of their department and the local government within which they serve. And whereas the Florida Association of Code Enforcement has declared the first week of June be set aside by local government to honor and recognize their code enforcement officers. Now, therefore, through and the authority vested in me by the Town Council of Southwest Ranches, Florida, I do hereby proclaim the week of June 4th through June 8th, 2018 as Code Enforcement Officers Appreciation Week in Southwest Ranches, Florida, in accordance with the statewide observance of the same, and encourage citizens of Southwest Ranches to join this Town Council in expressing appreciation for the dedication and outstanding service provided by the individuals who serve as our code enforcement officers. In witness whereof, I have hereunto set my hand and caused the seal of the town of Southwest Ranches be affixed this 24th day of May, 2018. Doug McKay, Mayor.
Awesome. Well, a couple of things. I believe most of the council knows how special our code enforcement team and crew are, and what a bang-up job they do. I know a lot of people believe that code enforcement is a tool for the town to make money, but that is absolutely not the case. The code enforcement here is just to make people comply, to fix what they've done wrong, or fix what's not right, or whatever the case may be. So I personally would like to thank each and every one of you and all of your departments and all that you all do, and your backup crews and everybody else that helps out. What an amazing job you all do. And I greatly appreciate and thank you all guys immensely. Any other council members up here want to pitch in? Go ahead, Steve.
I'll just quick comment. I think that job is one of the toughest jobs, if not the toughest job in town. And so we appreciate how difficult it is and how well you do it and the dedication you put to it. It really is very much appreciated. Thank you.
Dee?
I want to say thank you. It's not that it's such a tough job. It's very ungrateful. You can't please everybody. And as much as you'd like to make sure that every person that walks in your door or gives you a phone call, you can satisfy them completely, you cannot do that. It's humanly impossible. But I think you do a pretty good job on it, all of yous. And I just wanted to say thank you.
Gary?
Yeah, if you don't mind, Mayor, thank you. And, I just want to chime in and make sure everybody's aware of this. We're kind of unique in our town in that we don't have proactive code enforcement. It's more reactive. And usually by the time it gets to the code officers, it's already a sticky wicket situation between neighbors or what have you, and then they have to deal with that added pressure, and I just want to, and they handle it with real professionalism, and I just want to commend them for that. Thank you.
Frank, go ahead.
Yeah, I know it's one of the worst jobs to have, because whenever you have to go out and tell somebody you're on them, they think you're picking on them, but they're just doing their job, trying to make the town right and make sure you're better off if they tell you ahead of time to come back and catch it later. Thank you.
Awesome. If you all would come up and accept this, we would appreciate it. Come on, all of you.
No smiling,
You guys want to stand up here real quick, or behind them?
Get in here, Short. Oh, my big shoes.
Can you got us all or no?
Robert?
Awesome.
Can I say something?
Okay, okay. Help yourself, Robert.
But I always say thank you.
I know, you did. I just wanted to, Mayor and Vice Mayor.
Can't hear you.
Oh.
Pull that mic up.
Mayor and Vice Mayor, members of the council, want to thank you very much for this honor. It is an honor and a privilege to work for you all and for the town. I've been here for, I want to say it's going to be now, let's say about 10 years, almost 10 years. It is a difficult job. I understand that. I think it's not as difficult as being a police officer, but still very difficult. You come to a location and most people don't want to hear what you have to say. And unfortunately, we had a very bad news, but we try to accommodate everyone as much as possible, and we work with all residents to get it resolved. I wouldn't be here standing in front of you all unless I had my staff, which is Julio Medina and Yanni Marine, which are the ones that provide the backbone for the department. And they make me look good. So I do appreciate them very much, and that honor goes to them more than anybody else. And thank you very much for the kind of words.
Thank you. All right, public comment. Keith, you announcing or Russell? Russell.
We have one card, one speaker, Newell Hollingsworth.
Okay.
We have the new timer to debut. Do you
Please
want
be
to
aware of the new timer. It's much more accurate.
It's right here. It's over there and right here.
What, you've got that in microscopic.
There you
Anyway,
go.
Noah Hollingsworth, 199th Avenue. Last Saturday was, I was made a pioneer of Broward County, thanks to the council and nomination by Dee Schroeder. And I'd like to thank the mayor and Dee for both showing up at that, even though they weren't acknowledged until after I told them. So, but I was told by someone in town who will remain unknown that this guarantees that I'm an old goat. And I would like to say that I am very glad I live in Southwest Ranches because goats are allowed. So anyway, the other thing I want to talk to you about is I'd like for the council to take some time and get the mosquito plane out.
Good idea.
They're starting to hatch in greater numbers every day. And it's been the 2 weeks since the rain started, and that's when the first big wave of mosquitoes come out. And I think we need a spraying. And they said they were going to come out with the trucks and do some of these streets with the, mobile fogger, but that never does very much. It's the actual airplane spraying that does something for our town because we have such large lots. Anyway, so I wish the council would get on the town administrator to get him to put the thumb screws on mosquito control. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I guess that goes to Andy and to Russell for mosquito control. All right. Seeing no additional public comment is closed. Board reports.
Bob Hartman, Chair of the Drainage and Infrastructure Advisory Board. So we've had 2 joint meetings with the Comp Plan Board. Our last one was last week. Our first one was to solicit feedback from the public that showed up. I thought that was pretty interesting myself. We got a lot of good feedback from people that are either direct stakeholders or other stakeholders around the community. We heard from people that are in the orchid business that have a little thing in their backyard that, want to remain that way, on up to one or two of the larger landscape nurseries in town. We also heard from a lot of neighbors that have concerns about some of the bad actors in town. We had a second meeting last week that was more for us to deliberate. I think we'll probably make some headway when the two boards get back together in their own meeting schedules and go through what we heard, what we think, and the Drainage Committee deal with the drainage elements of the go-forward ordinance or thoughts, probably at this point, and the Comp Plan Board go through and try to patch some language together that gets us under control. My own personal view, both sides need a fair hearing. I think our mission really should be to stop the bad actors. I mean, I don't want to go into any one in particular. Everybody's aware of one or two of them. They make people that live in their neighborhoods miserable. So something's got to be done. Hopefully we'll get to some good language between the two groups to recommend to you all. Thank you.
Any additional board reports? Seeing none. Council member comments. Dee, you want to go first?
Yes, good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming out. I just wanted to touch on what Noel said about the Pioneer Day. It was a really nice venue they had for everybody. I did learn something about one of my residents who lived here. I figured everybody has come from a different state or Miami or Hialeah. That's my thought process. Come to find out, Mr. Hollingsworth is actually a local boy, Davy, and lived on an Orange Grove. So Mr. Hollingsworth is very much aware of all the changes throughout Broward County and has seen so many different things. But I didn't know that. I figured you kind of came up from Miami like everybody else did, or South Beach, but a local boy of Davie and living on an Orange Grove. Very interesting. Thank you.
Who's next? Steve? Go ahead.
Just a couple of quick things. First of all, I wanted to thank the boards, the Comp Board and the Drainage Board, for their work in working through some of these nursery questions and commercialization of them. Appreciate that. I know it's not an easy task. And Bob, as you mentioned, the goal here is not to punish anyone. The goal here is to find that middle ground that protects the residents and allows those nurseries that are doing it the right way to work unencumbered and not have any burden placed upon them. So we're looking for that middle ground, and I know that's what the boards are looking for. So, but thank you. I know it's not an easy task. The other thing I wanted to just touch on real quick is the mosquito control. What I don't want to do, I think it's important that the plane come in because that gives the residents an immediate relief. But we had the gentleman from Broward County here last year talk about mosquito control, and actually the plane and the trucks do two totally different things, and I don't think we should exclude one or the other. I just want to make sure that we get both. One of them, the plane, provides an immediate relief because it kills mosquitoes. The other one kills the larva, and so it protects us for a longer period of time. But that's why we get frustrated when the truck comes by and residents don't see any change. It's because that impact doesn't happen for a week or two. So I just want to make sure that we do both because that will help us from. Perfect. Thank you.
Can I just say something about that?
Go ahead.
I believe it was last year we had gotten some dunks for standing water. Perhaps we are going to get some more of those for the residents. Wrote a note. And they're really good. You can put them in all your waters. Anytime you find standing water, just drop one in, and it really does help. So maybe you can come by Town Hall and get some dunks for your standing water if you have any around.
Freddie?
Those are dunks, not ducks, right? Dunks, okay. Just want to be sure.
Yeah, one of the most important things our town has got the responsibility for, and that's the Everglades. Part of it, we have a part of it is in our town. And we have to keep on touch of what that is, because people, that's where the future of our town is. That's where our drinking water comes from. That's where everything. And we got to protect it.
Okay. Gary, you're up.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. And once again, thank everybody for coming out. And those of you in TV land, thank you for tuning in. Just want to make a couple announcements, and I'll be very brief. Just want to make sure everybody knows that this Monday, Town Hall is closed. It's an observance of Memorial Day. And it's projected to be a very wet weekend, so I just
Get
want to
your
mention
boats
that. Yeah. June 3rd, the Education Advisory Board is having a wood sign making fundraiser at the Rolling Oaks Barn at 6 p.m. You can call Town Hall 434-0008. Ask to talk to Yvette, who's the council liaison for that. It's a lot of fun, and it goes for a great cause. On June 18th, the property appraiser is going to be at Town Hall to answer any questions or for any applications for agricultural exemption, things of that nature, from 11:30 to 1 p.m. The 21st is first day of summer solstice observance at the Equestrian Park in the Saddles, where you watch the sun go down on, I don't know if it's, I can't remember if it's the left or the right one, but it's one of them. And on the 27th, we have a ham radio event at the Equestrian Park from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. It's an all-day affair. I think they run 24 hours, but that's when they're going to open it up to the public, and it's where they practice emergency preparedness with amateur radio and communications. And on June 28th, the DMV Flowmobile is going to be back here at Town Hall from 10 to 2 p.m. And last, the one we've all been waiting for, July 14th, is Hazmat in the Park, and we should have shredding, and I know I've got a lot of stuff built up waiting, and I'm sure everybody else does too. So, and it is very convenient, where you just pull in, and they empty out, you never get out of your car, and you just drive away. And I urge everybody to, make use of that service. It's part of what we pay for, so it's a very good service provided by the town. And I want to congratulate Mr. Hollingsworth as Pioneer of the Year. Well-deserved, well-earned. Thank you. And that's it for today.
Awesome. Well, I'd like to say it was a pleasure and honor to be in attendance, have Newell get his award, long time coming, and it was a pleasure, and thank you for recognizing me. I appreciate it. I came in the side door, so I didn't sign the form where elected officials sign, where they know to look you up and say something. So I was overlooked briefly, and Newell acknowledged me, and then somebody else did. But it was a pleasure and honor to be there. Thanks very much. One of the other things, Town Hall gets a lot of phone calls. I get a lot of phone calls. I think my other colleagues up here get phone calls on the large home being built just to the east of us here that has that large wall around it. And they think, that it's too big, it doesn't meet its setbacks, it doesn't meet this, it doesn't meet that. I want to tell you that we've had so many phone calls and so many issues about it that we have printed out the plat, the survey, everything related to it. We have had the engineers double check the calculations on it, and it meets everything it needs to as far as the setbacks, 50 feet. It faces 126, 128, and the back is 126. It didn't need any variance applications or anything. They meet everything. They're allowed to build 20% on that site. They're at 19 and change. So because it's behind that wall, it looks like it's not as much, and with all those different buildings, but it's been thoroughly vented from every angle and avenue from all the phone calls we've gotten. So I just want to assure everyone that it meets what it needs to, and it's not what it's not supposed to be. So anything along the way there, if you want to call me, call Town Hall or whatever, but we've checked it thoroughly, so much so that the administrator has it rolled up in his office that if anybody walks in, he can just pull it out and set it on his desk and show someone. So that's a private home, and it's 9,000 something square feet. So anyhow, I wouldn't have built a home of that caliber on that made busy highway, but that's just me. So the other thing I'd like to say is bingo night was this past weekend. Had a great turnout, was a lot of fun. I think we played 12 games. I didn't win any, but I came real close. Food was good, a lot of friend camaraderie, a lot of residents, neighbors. We had a great time. Those of you that didn't come out and join us, you should next year. It's always a lot of fun. So other than that, I can't think of what else I'm forgetting, but it can't be that important. But I want to thank all the residents who came out tonight. And those of you that don't recall, we have 2 meetings a month, so feel free if you have any issues. Usually people don't come unless they have an issue, but it's always come to kind of see how this works and how it functions and whatnot. So thank you very much. I'm done with my comments, so I'm going to tell you legal comments. Keith, you're up to bat.
Sure, Mayor, I'll be super brief. First, I'd, of course, like to thank all the brave men and women who serve this country this Memorial Day. I hope everyone has a nice Monday and thinks about those who have passed and for the country. I'd also like to congratulate Newell on his award. Congrats. It's a really good honor to get in Broward County. Finally, I'd like to congratulate the Burns family, who will be celebrating a wedding of Andy's son this weekend, and I hope it brings you endless joy, and congratulations on getting a daughter.
There you go.
That was perfect, D. Other than that, I have no further comments.
Okay, Andy, you're up.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Actually, I was going to remind you, but actually Keith brought that up. I may be a little difficult to reach this weekend. And just want to remind you all that Russell will be available as you need him. Yes, we'll be celebrating.
Does that mean call him a lot?
No more than you call me, Mayor.
I think that's almost never on the weekend.
If you're not able to reach me or I'm a little indisposed, I know that Russ will be available certainly to help you with anything you need. I'll be leaving tonight after the council meeting. I'll be back on Tuesday, but in the meantime, we'll be celebrating and trying to stay dry. So thank you.
Great. Okay. Number 9, ordinance, second reading. I think you're going to read it and then pass it off to Gary?
That's correct, Mayor.
Okay.
This is an ordinance for second reading, an ordinance of the Town of Southwest Ranches, Florida, amending the Code of Ordinances of the Town of Southwest Ranches by amending Article 3, Chapter 22 of the Code entitled Cable Television, amending Section 22-88 of the Code by providing that a certificate holder as defined in Section 610-103, subsection 1, subsection 4, Florida statutes shall comply with the Town of Southwest Ranches Communication Rights of Way Ordinance. Article 2, Chapter 22, Sections 22.18 through 22.31 of the Town Code for placing or maintaining a cable system or facilities in the town public rights of way, repealing and replacing Article 2, Chapter 22, Sections 22.9 through 22.19 through 22.31 entitled Placement of Facilities and Rights of Way with new sections 22.18 through 22.27 and creating the Town of Southwest Ranches Communication Rights of Way Ordinance, providing intent and purpose, applicability and authority to implement, providing definitions, providing for registration for placing or maintaining communications facilities in the public rights of way, providing a requirement of a permit, providing application requirements and review procedures, providing for a performance bond, providing for construction methods, providing development and objective design standards, providing for fees and taxes, providing enforcement remedies, providing for severability, providing for conflicts, providing for repeal of zoning in progress, and providing an effective date.
Good evening, everybody. Gary Resnick from Gray Robinson. I have the privilege of serving as the town's outside communications counsel. So we had first reading on this ordinance back in, back in April, and then we received a number of comments and objections from industry stakeholders to provisions in the ordinance. And so to give ample time for the industry to provide all of their comments, to have further discussions if they wanted to, and to allow our staff to evaluate their comments, second reading was delayed until tonight. So We did receive further comments and objections from various industry members. We did take them under advisement. We are suggesting several changes to the ordinance from first reading to tonight based largely on their comments, and as well as some comments that were raised by staff with respect to implementation of the ordinance once they start getting applications. And so I know that the red line showing the revisions was distributed to the council, but if you like, I can go through the changes from first reading to tonight that we're recommending, and then answer any questions you may have, however you'd like to proceed.
I think we want to hear changes, don't we, or no? Yeah, we'd like to hear the changes,
Okay.
Gary, thank you.
And I'll try to do this as quickly as possible, but they're somewhat numerous. Okay. So.
I think maybe if you can, Mayor, if it's all right, I don't think we need to go like line by line, but
Right.
what was the comment and how was it changed?
Okay. So one of the main issues that the industry has is your ordinance had a requirement of a security fund or basically a permanent performance bond to guarantee compliance with the code. The industry strongly objects to that. They claim that it's a violation of Florida's newly amended tax statute, but we disagree, and so we just agree to disagree on that issue. And staff and I feel that the requirement of a permanent performance bond in the form of cash or a letter of credit is in the best interest of the town, because if these industry folks, as they're installing their facilities in the rights-of-way, damage town facilities, damage your rights-of-way, damage a water line or utility line, or, God forbid, a pole falls over and hurts somebody or whatever, damages private property, you need funds immediately available to repair the damage. And so we are retaining the requirement of a fund that's permanently on file. We changed the name of it, though, from security fund to a performance cash bond, to clarify that this is going to be in the nature of a bond that's going to be on file with the town. It has to be maintained in a separate account. Can't be used by the town for revenue. It has to be maintained solely for purposes of covering the items that I've mentioned before that are listed in the ordinance: damage to rights-of-way, damage to facilities, or if they abandon their facilities in the rights-of-way and you have to pay to remove them, it can cover that as well. So it's really in the nature of a security fund. We do not think that it violates Florida statute, and we're recommending that stay in. But we made several changes to the ordinance to reflect the change in terminology from a security fund to a performance cash bond. So that's their major issue with the ordinance, and there's a number of changes based on that. And then, and the amount of that, by the way, is $25,000, but that has to be replenished. So if the town draws down any or all of the $25,000 to cover some damages in the rights-of-way, the company would have to replenish that, or else it would not be eligible for further permits. All right. And this is somewhat of a minor change. The industry, there's an indemnification provision in the ordinance whereby registrants who place their facilities in the rights-of-way have to indemnify the town. They wanted that to not cover the town's gross negligence or wanton or willful acts, which we agreed to, so we added that language to the ordinance so that you will not be indemnified for gross negligence or wanton or willful acts of the town, which is fairly standard under liability laws anyhow. Going to go through that. There's a provision in the state statute that's implemented in this ordinance whereby cable companies can install what's known as micro wireless facilities on strands over the rights-of-way. These, but by state statute, are not eligible to be permitted. So the town doesn't have permitting authority with respect to these facilities, but they're limited in dimension. They're supposed to be very, very small facilities, small devices. So we put a provision in the ordinance that they need to demonstrate to the town staff that they actually meet those dimensions. But then at the request of the industry, we said that if they demonstrated once as long as they're using the same manufacturer's device or not changing the dimensions of the device, that one-time demonstration is good enough, and they don't have to submit the manufacturer's specs every time they want to install one of those devices in the rights-of-way. So that was at the request of the cable industry. For the permit application requirements, we wanted a survey to demonstrate that the facility is in the rights-of-way. At the industry's request and with concurrence from your staff, we just changed the type of survey from an ALTA survey, which is used more for construction purposes, to a topographical survey. But your staff is going to have an application form, and they can indicate any type of survey they would like to be submitted, depending on the facility that's being proposed in the rights-of-way. The ordinance required pole attachment agreements or proof that they had authority to co-locate their facilities on a third party's poles. For example, if they want to locate or co-locate a small wireless facility on an FP&L pole, we were asking for some demonstration such as the pole attachment agreement that they had authority. The industry objects to that. They claim that that's really a private matter between them and the utility, and so we recognize that if they're regulated by federal law with respect to their pole attachments, which communications companies and cable companies are, that they don't have to demonstrate through the provision of a pole attachment agreement that they have authority. But we did add language that by submitting an application, they're certifying to the town that they have such authority, so that if your town issues a permit to attach to a private pole owned by FP&L or some other party, that owner of that pole can't come back to you and say, why did you permit them to attach to my pole? They don't have authority to do so. So we did add that language to the ordinance. There's one change from the prior red line that was distributed to you that we would like to make in the version for tonight. And this is based on discussion with your staff. And I'm going to have to put my glasses on for this. I'm sorry. Getting older and slower. All right, so there's a provision in the ordinance consistent with the statute that they could, if they wanted to, install backup power supplies for their facilities. And the regulation of fuel for backup power supplies, that was a county function, it's not a town function. So we just amended the ordinance to reference the county code as opposed to the town code with respect to that. And that's in section 22.22B16 of the ordinance, just because that's not reflected in the red line that was distributed to you previously. In addition to the permanent cash bond that the registrants are going to have on file with the town also has the ability to require a construction bond when they apply for construction projects in the town. This is solely to guarantee restoration of the rights-of-way. So we just made some changes in the language just to clarify that that's a construction bond. The amount will be based on 110% of the costs to restore the rights-of-way after they're finished with their construction project. And that clarification, by the way, was at the request of the industry as well. The industry objects to the provision in the code that indicates that once they excavate a certain area of the rights-of-way, that same area cannot be re-excavated for 2 years. And there was some discussion as to what was meant by excavation since it wasn't defined in the ordinance. So I added the reference to the Florida statutes, which defines excavation, so that there's clarity on behalf of both the industry and your staff as to what exactly is going to be prohibited during that 2-year period. And they have not objected to adding the definition from the Florida statute. There's a language in the ordinance that prohibits the installation of a small wireless facility where it would interfere with the rights and convenience of adjacent property owners, whether they're residents or businesses. The industry objected to the word convenience, claiming that that was subjective and they wouldn't know what that meant. And so we changed that terminology to safety or create a nuisance, which is a more defined term under your code. There's a provision that if they install a facility, a new pole, for example, to match existing poles in the rights-of-way, if it's such other poles are light poles, the ordinance had language that unless waived by the town, the stealth utility pole should function in the same manner as the other poles in the rights-of-way. The statute actually prohibits the town from requiring an in-kind, any type of in-kind service or facility, so we cannot actually require a functioning light, so we deleted that language from the ordinance, and that was at the request of the industry. You can strongly suggest it, though, when they come in for their application. And again, there was some clarification about camouflaging facilities that are installed on poles. And then your staff had some suggestions with respect to the landscaping requirements for concealing the small wireless facilities or boxes that are going to be installed in the rights-of-way. These are fairly large facilities. The ordinance provides for wrapping those facilities, and your board met and came up with some designs for the wraps for those facilities, and we're working with staff to provide examples of designs for wraps that you could require. But in addition, there's requirements that they landscape these facilities. And so we added some language to reference your code provisions with respect to the landscape requirements, because your code already has very detailed requirements with respect to landscaping, including the requirement that the landscape plans be submitted by a certified landscape architect licensed under Florida statutes. And this is not in the red line that was provided to you. This is based on further discussions that we had with your staff yesterday. So this is a revision to Section 22.25C6D of the ordinance, just to reference the town code with respect to the landscaping requirements. And they have to maintain the landscaping at their cost concerning irrigation and whatever your code requires with respect to maintaining landscaping. And that's pretty much a summary without reading them line by line. That's pretty much of a summary of the revisions from first to second reading, and as well deals with some of the major objections that the industry has provided. I know that they've submitted further objections today, and I've asked for a deferral. These came in this afternoon. You've probably gotten copies of these, or maybe they even contacted you. But I did want to just state for the record that we have reached out to the industry numerous times. We did receive their comments. We evaluated their comments very closely. We made the changes that we agreed with. Frankly, there's just some areas where we just agree to disagree, or we don't think that the changes are in the best interest of the town. However, we did reach out again to the industry today and asked if they wanted to discuss anything. We were available, and none of them reached back out to me. So that's where this stands at this point. And I'm here to answer any questions you may have.
All right, so I need a motion and a second based on his changes and suggestions.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve the revised version.
I second it.
Okay, any public comment on this matter? Seeing no public comment is closed. Back to us. Any questions?
And just to be clear, the revised version includes that one change that's not actually in our document.
There were two changes, council member, correct. The revised version that I provided to staff today does include those changes, and I also have a clean version that I'll provide to your town clerk.
Dee, go ahead.
I just wanted to say thank you, and thank you for all your hard work. I do have one quick question. What happens on private roads?
This only covers public rights-of-way.
Only
So
the public
private roads
right-of-way.
are not covered by the statute or the ordinance, so if a company wants to locate a facility on a private road, it would need the permission of that road owner. And
Just the road owner or the whole development?
whatever entity owns that road is in charge of that road. If it's a HOA, they would need the approval of the HOA. If it's owned by a different district, a drainage district, or whatever, they would need the approval of that district. If it's owned by a private individual or a group of houses that are on that road, they would need the agreement of the individuals or those homeowners that are on that road.
Okay.
But
Thank
this ordinance and the statute only cover town public rights-of-way, not county public rights-of-way either. This is only for the town.
Keith?
Yeah, Gary, have you been working with town staff on getting us the necessary forms to implement this?
Yes, that's something I'm still going to work with. I'm going to get Emily a checklist for the registration, because those could come in as soon as this is effective. And then once registrations are effective, they can apply for permits. So I'm going to work with your staff to get them some help with creating the forms for this. That was it.
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Excuse me, I'd like to ask Mr. Resnick a question.
Go right
Do I have
ahead.
your permission?
Go right ahead.
With paragraph, page 18, paragraph D on the security fund, I'm just requesting a modification regarding the security fund, just in case there may be, this is the instance that he had questions about the security bond. To avoid any potential cost to the town, we do have the ability to keep the funds separate. If the party should choose a cash bond versus a paper bond, most people do select the paper bond for these, but there are instances we may get cash that would be retained by the town for a long period of time. So the account bears interest, but I would like the terminology changed to say, and include the fact that a separate account, but that will pay no interest to the party. So the account we have happens to pay interest, and under these terms, would have to open a brand-new account, which could be an expense to the town, that specifically doesn't pay interest. So I would like to have the funds that we receive, should we receive cash, earn interest, but I don't want
Comes to
the
us, doesn't
party
go to them.
to receive, right, exactly. That's the purpose of it.
Gary,
So
what's your input there?
Can we revise that provision, please, for those that should select a cash bond versus a paper bond, please?
Right. Well, just to clarify, they'll have to submit a registration, either $25,000 cash or a letter of credit. It's not a bond from a surety. It's a letter of credit or a cash. And yes, it's absolutely fine to delete the language that it will be a non-interest bearing account. And you're not obligated to return the interest to the registrant, but if you choose to do so, that's up to the town. But we can absolutely delete that language to make it easier for you.
Correct. So it's, I know when in vague, then it leaves it off, there's no interest required to be remitted. It's just the terminology just needs to be changed, revised to
Correct.
say that, maintained in an account of which the party will receive no interest. So there's no question, should the vendor desire or want interest on their payment. So do you
That's fine.
understand?
Yep.
Thank you very much.
Want to modify your motion?
Yeah, I'll modify the motion to include that change.
I second it.
Okay. Any additional public comments since that got opened back up? Seeing none, public comment closed. Back to us. Any additional comments or questions? Seeing none, call the question.
Councilmember Schroeder,
Yes.
Councilmember Jablonski,
Yes.
Councilmember Brighters.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Fisickelli.
Yes.
Mayor McKay.
Yes.
Motion passes.
It might be based on the numbers.
Okay, number 10, please.
This is a resolution of the Town Council of the Town of Southwest Ranches, Florida, approving the 2018 amendments to the two interlocal agreements with Broward County, providing for the division and distribution of the proceeds of the Broward County 5th cent local option gas tax and the additional 3rd cent local option gas tax, authorizing the mayor, town administrator, and town attorney to execute said agreements and providing for an effective date.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, that was simultaneous.
I got it.
It's okay. All right. Any public comment on this matter? See no public comment. Public comment is closed. Back to us. Any questions on this matter from the council? See no questions. Call the roll.
Councilmember Schroeder,
Yes.
Councilmember Jablonski,
Yes.
Councilmember Brighters.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Fisickelli.
Yes.
Mayor McKay.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Right. Number 17, approval of minutes.
So moved.
Excuse me, number 11, I'm sorry.
Second.
Okay. Any public comment on this matter? Because we've been corrected before. Seeing none. Public comments closed. Back to us. Any questions? Any changes? Seeing none. Call the question.
Councilmember Schroeder?
Yes.
Councilmember Jablonski?
Yes.
Councilmember Bright Cruz?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Fisickelli?
Yes.
Mayor McKay?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Motion to adjourn.
Accepted. That's it.
When are we going to be moving over on the street with the nurseries?